when you look into the way that the world financing works and the way that the world banking system works, it's all a Ponzi scheme to steal your life energy and ensure that the majority of us work our entire lives, have to work our entire lives, our healthiest, youngest, fittest lives. We spend all of that time in an office or something like that, can spend 50% of our income on taxes. And then, with the rest of it, we're lucky if we have a few years left at the end to play golf. When in fact, you are a divine spark of the creator here, and you shouldn't be controlled by any entity.
Hey everybody, I'm here today with the little Trinity4.
Hey, hi everyone, hi Karen.
Yeah, it's been a little while, hasn't it, since we've had a hangout?
Yep, it sure has.
And the earth is flat, Dave, as you're writing it on the ground.
Which video are you
You've got like
covering?
purple chalk or lilac chalk, and there's a man in shorts with no top on. They're standing sort of at a junction in Hyde Park. I'm sorry, speaker's going a bit.
Oh, okay.
And as I said to you before we started, I watched a lot of that.
Yeah, speakers from Speaker's Corner on Sunday.
Yeah, it's ages since I've been up there.
Yeah, it's been a while. I've only been up a few times this year, but I plan to go up during August. I plan to go probably 3 times this month.
Well, you are good, Dave. I do like you talking and putting people to rights. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, the flat Earth conversation is interesting. I mean, Speaker's Corner feels to me like a little microcosm of the kind of religious stroke immigrant tension that's going on in the world. There is some very, very angry people defending their beliefs. There is, as I said to a Muslim cleric on Sunday, don't think this was on video. Actually, I wasn't videoing at this point because my live stream dropped out. I wasn't able to maintain the live stream. So I've recorded some of it, which I've still got to upload to my channel. But as I said to him, I feel like there is a let's call it a civil war brewing between sort of, let's call them Europeans versus the Muslims, or Christians versus the Muslims. I feel like this is what is being fomented at the moment, and might well be why we've had this sort of unfettered immigration, particularly of people of the Muslim faith. Because there is this kind of fear in this country that Muslims are going to overrun non-Muslims. Now, I mean, England isn't particularly a Christian country anymore. I think, atheists probably have quite a high percentage, or, there's quite a high percentage of people that are in the atheistic kind of mindset. But if they're forced, and I also went the day before, I went to Trafalgar Square to watch some of what they call Freedom Rally, which was hosted by Tommy Robinson. And although he stepped away from the EDL, the English Defence League, he is, he brings with him a certain, white, anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim rhetoric or mindset. And a big part of his presentation on Saturday was to do with some schoolboy in Leicester or somewhere who poured water on a Muslim child's face, and the media made a big thing about it. The government eventually closed the school down. To cut a long story short, they eventually closed the school down. They paid off the teachers, even the janitor got paid off £18,000. He got this information under Freedom of Information. And to silence them. Actually, he played this video that he'd been told in court, in high court, he wasn't allowed to play, and apparently he got arrested afterwards. But for stoking, extremist type, mindset. But this boy, this white boy who's 15, sort of tackles. You see this video of him tackling this younger boy, slightly younger boy, to the ground and pouring water on his face, and the media made it out as a racist waterboarding event. So Tommy had gone and interviewed people around the scene, and it turned out that this Muslim boy was very unpopular. He was threatening to rape the sisters of this boy, and he'd had 100 encounters with the headmaster for various things, being rude to the teachers and blah blah blah. It's a mixed bag, but it's stoking certain
avenues.
Yeah, and narrative in the minds of the people, and it's interesting dialect or dissonance between what the Muslim preachers were saying to me in Speaker's Corner about the Muslim faith requires for people to be decent, blah blah blah, but then at the same time you've got what appears to be these grooming gangs. There was a whole lot of stuff that Tommy was bringing out about grooming gangs, of the Muslim faith and blah blah blah. So it's there's always bad apples but
do you think that people are the same today as they were in 2016 when you started going there, or 2017 when you started going there? Do you think the people that you met there are still the same in Hyde, on Speaker's Corner? They're still asking the same questions, or do you think things have moved on a little bit?
Well, some of the faces are the same from the early days, but when it comes to the question of the Earth, then in 2018, when I first went there, people were stunned by it, and they didn't really, that was new to them. But today, now, people have already, a lot of people have heard it. It's not to say everybody's heard about the flat Earth.
It's more it's somehow accepted a bit more.
No. Even there's a few clips in the Trafalgar Square, a short video where I clipped a few bits together, and in that I have a mixed bag of people coming and saying this is absolutely stupid, which I get quite a lot because people have watched the Professor J type, fight the flat Earth.
If only they realise they're being lied to.
Yeah. Oh, have you heard the latest Alex Michael song?
No, what's that?
It's called Space Cunt, and he goes something like this: Space cunt, you're a space cunt. Yeah, and he uses the faces of McToon and people like that to kind of drive the point home. And of course, that anyone hears the term flat Earth and then puts it into a search engine or YouTube or whatever, they're going to get one of those space cuts, first before they'll see anything that's
You've done that with 9/11. It takes you to about page 7 before you see a building go down, and we know it didn't used to look like that. It used to look totally different. So they've changed it. They've just changed it to what they want it to look like.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
They like doing that, don't they?
But on the other hand, I think I get perhaps more people coming, shaking my hand and saying, yes, I know it now.
But you know what, Dave?
So
I'm sure you do know this, but the BlackRock family own Google. Google's the globe. Google owns Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp, eBay, and more. And so this is why we struggle, because you're dealing with the globe. The platform is a globe.
Well, and also, I mean, anything that's powerful, anything that's useful in the world, is easily bought by the controlling people. You know, if the Rockefellers can buy the education system, and the Rothschilds can buy the banking system, then when it comes to these sorts of things, you hear these sort of eye-watering numbers, like deep state Elon Musk buys Twitter for 40 billion or whatever, I don't remember, but that's not his money, that's the deep state.
We used to have a bit more fun, didn't we? It was before 2018. We could go live for 3 hours and talk about what we wanted to, basically, and there was no problems. Whereas now, you mention those words and there'll be big signs all over your channel and all this ridiculous stuff. It's archaic, old system that's not here anymore.
That's if you're getting,
well, all they like to do is push you down and you said it in one of your bits that they shadow ban, and that is exactly what they do.
Absolutely, no, absolutely, all the narrative, and I think obviously I spend my
life. You spend your life, Dave,
going. Receiving a certain amount of abuse for my trouble, So, but
what comes with the job,
I do it because I do think that people need to, they need to hear this stuff and they need to know. Now, I really am at ease with the idea that whatever, I genuinely am kind of a good idea that whatever's going to play out here, whatever's being preordained or designed by these powerful
things,
oligarchs over the centuries, is going to come to fruition. They are going to bring, even though, for example, I don't know if he's controlled or not, but whatever he's going to do is actually stoking the fire of the coming sort of civil upheaval, and the challenges that are going to come from the way they're controlling the food and the water and the cost of living.
We're just their little prisoners, aren't we? We're in an open air boot camp, basically.
Yes, I mean, and it is, but we're not even that free range anymore, are we?
No, I think we live under totalitarianism, which is worse than communism. Most countries have had it. If they had it, we had it. So they're just lying about democracy because there isn't any. Because otherwise, you wouldn't mind what people say. We're not trying to get people to rise up and fight. We're just talking. So there shouldn't be a problem with any of it.
No, and I don't even know if it feels true in democracy, because if you control a newspaper, again, if you're the multi-trillionaire.
That's what I mean. That's totalitarianism, isn't it? Because they want you to believe in what they want you to believe in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or they steer. Well, yes, they do, but they also want you to they want you to get upset about a particular thing that they brought about. So they want to have, as the phrase I use is Protestant or Protestant, because they want you to be either the sheep that's staying along with it, or the goat that's going to fight against it. And so, in either way, they're going to control your energy and hold your, take your energy and then get us to go to war with each other. Get us into conflict with each other.
I think somehow they want a kind of martial law to happen so that they can control us even more. So, a bit like lockdown, really.
Well,
did you see the one that he's on the BBC? He accepting pictures of children. Now, he is a big newsreader, and he's been on the television for years, and now they've told, oh, well, you can't like him, we've sacked him now because he's all these things. But I think often when they humiliate them, they're actually promoting them, to be honest.
Hi, how are you?
Good, brother. How are you?
Good to see you again.
Likewise. Are you cold?
No, just hot, but the sun is,
the sun is
just
baking.
covering my head as well.
Hi.
Hi, we have a question.
Yeah. Would you like a flyer to go with the question?
Sure.
First of all, why do you think the Earth is flat?
You come from the North Americas?
I come from Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia. Okay. I haven't been there, but I've traveled to 30 states in America. America, you know. And when I traveled across America from Boston to the West Coast, like California or whatever, I had to travel over the Rocky Mountains, yeah?
Yeah.
So when I started Boston, I'm in the Boston Harbor, my position is 0 sea level. And then I go up the mountains, the Blue Smoky Mountains or whatever in Virginia, and then I go across, you know, the whole of America for 3 or 4 days, whatever it was. And then I go over the Rockies, and then I get into California. And guess what? The sea level on the other side is the same. So I've gone up like quite high, a few thousand meters in the case of the Rockies. But no matter how high I go up, I'll come down exactly the same amount, even though I've traveled 3,000 miles in span. So the sea level, according to USGS, which is your governmental survey, says that the sea level difference between the Pacific and the Atlantic, 9 inches. Now, if we live on a globe and the water is curving on that globe, then there is a certain measurable curvature to that water. Yeah, a bending, because we're meant to be standing on the top of the ball, that's relativity, and down there is where Africa is, or wherever South America in your case, yeah, down there. Yeah, so that curvature should be measurable. And when I discovered that the formula for the curvature is 8 inches per mile squared, I plugged that into my calculator and I plugged that into my mind, and when I've been to places in the world, I've stood on coastlines and seen things 20 miles, 30 miles away. How is that possible if there's this amount of curvature in play? Well, really, truly, it's not. Water is always going to find level. Water will always find level, and we cannot prove that we're spinning.
It looks like a humiliation, but it's actually a promotion.
Yeah, I mean, I think like with the GB News or the, was it Piers Morgan Uncut or whatever it's called, the other one, the American news anchor that famously left Fox. You know, these guys are actually like Pied Piper, like Russell Brand. You know, they're demonized in order to kind of give them credibility. Same with Trump. You know, demonized to give him credibility. There's so many people who say, "All right, this is up to no good," and we will follow the leader who stands aside of what the system is. So the system wants to create like an anti-hero, so that those that are out sort of camp, they will go and, you know, follow Russell Brand.
Feel and don't matter. They want you fighting about them. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the point I was thinking was that we are going to see a sort of incremental or rapid move towards this totalitarianism, this you know, everything control.
Do you know what that means?
Another century.
You don't have your own thoughts. You only have the thoughts of what the government tells you everything is. And monarchy means government. So they're just lying about everything.
Well, it was my contention that you know, monarchy was you know, given the right rule. Like, these monarchs were allowed to have their play or their role, but that they may well have also been a controlled entity. But as the church,
well, you need
and
a
the
king and a parliament for a monarchy, so it's both of them. And they say Charles has a backward seat, but he is an emperor. Look at the countries that he's proxy king to, that he owns, whatever it is. He owns thousands of acres in America. He probably still owns India. He probably still owns Israel. It goes on. They haven't given anything up. Yeah, the Romans, whatever they are.
Yeah. Well, and also that they, you know, that they realized that the monarchy system was not going to be able to people in its sways. They tried, will give government. When they first introduced government, it was a one-party state. You know, it was just the Conservatives in the UK. And then after about 50 or 70 years, then they
pretended that we had a choice. They pretended.
Yeah, and you know, and all of these organizations or corporations, they all bend the knee to this, you know, monarchy. They all, but then with whatever, Israel is, there seems to be this
Well, that's really strange why they sacked this bloke. It's the BBC, and they said that the Labour Party were going to talk to, obviously, the BBC because he's been sacked for what he has. And you're thinking, but they're all part of the same thing. So it's just another history, isn't it? History. Just to keep you away from what's really happening, they have to lie to you and tell you all this crap.
And and of course, when someone like Andrew steps out of line and starts talking his truth, they push him out. They push him out of the Conservative Party, and he's just lost the election in his constituency of having won 3 or 4, comfortably won 3 or 4 elections on the trot. This time around, I believe he got 3% of the vote.
I know, but I don't believe. I believe it. None of it's real. I told you. I sent it to you. That video of Keir Starmer. It was a cartoon, which means they didn't make it that day. They made it before. Our votes mean nothing. They're selected. And I got this feeling in America, even though everybody thinks Trump's going to win, they'll probably put Kamala Harris in, just to upset the apple cart. Even though if people vote, they're going to vote for Trump. But they'll put Kamala Harris in instead.
Yeah.
I just wonder if that's going to happen.
At least years ago, I called Keir Starmer as the next PM, actually. And then Andrew realized that his name, if you screw his name, you put the first letter at the back on his surname and invert that, you'll get scared.
Sorry, say that again. You're cutting out a tiny, tiny little bit. What did you say? Say that again. Put the letter at the front.
Well, if you take Keir, the K, and put it after in where the T is in his name, and you put the ST at the front, then you're saying steer karma. And it makes me wonder. His role is going to be to try and steer the ship calmer, despite it's coming down. Big stuff is coming down the line. But when it comes to Donald Trump, I think that he has a massive role to play. Now, whether that's in this next election cycle or whether it's 4 years ahead, I think he will be president again, whether it's this time around or the next time. And I think that the false flag shooting business was part of giving him a credibility, like a hero status.
I took a bullet for the country.
Have you seen the photos of him? Now he's been meant to be shot in the ear, and there's photos already emerged of him being in a public setting with no bandage on and an ear that looks absolutely normal. Now,
the video that I sent it to you. He's got no blood on his face. He's superimposed into the footage. It's disgusting. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say.
Right, yeah. So that was. I obviously, having been around shooting incidents in my lifetime, that didn't feel real to me the moment I saw it.
Someone said there's no way the security at that point would have let him put his head up. They would have shrouded him. They never would have showed his head. He's up there going, fight, fight. That's what it's about, so he can say, come on, fight. Because they obviously want people to uproar.
That's right. I mean, he really was the one who instigated the riot that ended up in the Capitol Hill 4 or 5 years ago that caused a whole lot of upheaval in the country. And I think that fist that he put up in the air... Well, you have to just
think that it did happen. But I watched when he walked through New York when he'd won the election. He didn't. So all these things, they're just put in. They're just made weeks and weeks or months before, and then they stick him in whenever they want to do a new story. They've impeached him. I think Biden needs to be impeached over his son. His son was found guilty but not given a sentence, but he let him have a gun and all that. The guy should be impeached more than I thought Trump. But when you listen to some people, they'll say, there's only one party in America, the ones that are in the Senate. The rest, Trump is in the same party, really, as Biden, but they're pretending it's 2 parties. And you're like, oh my God, it's just like a joke.
Well, and also it's distracting. These things are great distractions. You know, maybe some of these things really do kind of happen, but I think just like this court case that went on with Trump, it was a little bit like the Monica Lewinsky scandal from the 80s, 90s or whenever it was with Bill Clinton. You know.
But you know what that means? They can't impeach him again now.
Right.
So he's clear. So he's almost like he could do what he likes because they can't impeach him now because he's been impeached.
Yeah. 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 No, but I think a lot of it's distraction because, you know, at the end of the day, they've got to fill the newspapers and the news with certain stuff, and they need to keep the sheep busy. And you know, what we should be talking about is, like, you know, the excess deaths. There was never, you know, a virus that was going around killing people. Blah blah blah. You know, it was.
Oh yeah, where do we live? We don't know where we're living, what we're living on exactly. We want to know all sorts of other things, and all they want to do is make fake history and news all the time.
And, you know,
when I looked up Keir Starmer, it really bugged me because he was head prosecutor, and he was, well, for 9 years, he didn't know they dropped the case against Jimmy Savile. I mean, that's how much he has his finger on the button. And then I found out, it said on the internet that he was the head prosecutor with all that post office thing. So he sent innocent people to court and tried them. Some of them killed themselves. What the hell do you want him for?
I seem to remember a few years ago when we were looking at Keir Starmer as a possible next prime minister, did a little scratching around, and one was that he spent a year after he got his degree in law or whatever. He spent a year at Oxford University studying drama, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, because he's an actor.
And that he was, I think he is, because, you know, he's Sir Keir Starmer, and he's a Knight of the Royal Order of the Garter.
No.
You know, so
it gets worse.
You know, so the same is true with Trump. You know, he is, you know, like the free.
Yeah, but people think they're real people. They don't realise it's just another soap opera. It's being made for you to watch. It's being made for you to watch. It's not happening. Like there was, there was no event with Trump. It was all made on a computer.
Oh. Yeah, or to keep you in the game, Karen, or keep people in the game.
Yeah, keep you watching the black screen and listening to the television. Yeah.
Yeah, and maintaining the status quo. And as far as I can tell, Trump did so many things that were anti-human. You know, he brought about the warp speed. I'll get you the vaccine very quickly. He brought about Space Force, which we know is absolute fake. You know, he started. You know, he locked the Americans down. He is not. He borrowed
He's not
more
your
money.
hero. He is not your hero. And if you actually, what it is on the news, they just put sometimes like a sentence or two. But if you actually listen to him, he's just as bad as Biden. He says the most ridiculous things, Trump.
Yeah. Well, he said something interesting the other day, which I'd like to share with the listeners, and that is that he was appealing to Christian voters to go out and vote and what have you. He said, "Go out and vote. I love you, you Christians. I'm not a Christian. I love you. Go out and vote. For the next 4 years, you won't need to do it again." That's what he said. You won't need to do it again. So I do. It's like, why did he say that? You know, is there a clue there that? You know, that this is a
I watched this video. Listen, this is going to capture in with your thing. They were looking at pictures they give out for the years ahead. And the next few years looks like war, disaster, and then about 3 or 4 years' time, it's all harmony and everything changes. But then I suppose we're in New World Order anyway. The dollar says it. It says that is New World Order. You're using New World Order money. But it's in a few years, there's going to be a bit of peace. The next 3 or 4 years, the pictures are terrible about white fighting, problems, wars, and then peace. So that might be, maybe they're going to put Camilla in, but he'll be so old then, Trump.
Yeah. Didn't you do a thing where you were suggesting that he was Elvis Presley repackaged? Was that you?
He did look. You like that video? He did look very like Elvis Presley there, and you know, I actually wondered whether any of these people are real. They're just cartoons for the television.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, someone will say,
okay,
I
so
saw Trump, I've met him and all that, but I just don't know if I believe it. I don't know, but you see, they've lied to us so much. They're lying on everything, and I just don't trust them. So you think, oh my God, not something else. It just goes on every day, some drama.
Okay, so my beautiful outlook for humanity is that we are all of the same, from the same source. We are all from the same creator. However, there has to be considered this possibility that, like the Bible guys say, that actually we have amongst us these fallen entities, these dark Nephilim type offspring who are, Ashkenazi or whatever they are. They hate God's creation, and that they actually want to destroy us. And that's the kind of unpalatable but possible kind of scenario, that there is a secret group who have been working, and they have usurped governments of the world. They have beaten, they have, gotten rid of anyone who's ever been popular and genuinely of the people. They've gotten rid of them and only ensured that their own society people get in. And the thing
That's
is
what I'm
that,
saying, they're selected, not elected.
of course, because you see, if once the Conservative Party or Labour Party, whatever, is controlled by these same entities, then anyone who is given the nod will have come through the school of, or not only the school of, but have the bloodline of this potential darkness. So
to California. And guess what? The sea level on the other side is the same. So I've gone up like quite high, a few thousand meters in the case of the Rockies, but no matter how high I go up, I'll come down exactly the same amount, even though I've traveled 3,000 miles in span. So the sea level, according to USGS, which is your governmental survey, says that the sea level difference between the Pacific and the Atlantic, 9 inches. Now, if we live on a globe, and the water is curving on that globe, then there is a certain measurable curvature to that water. Yeah, a bending, because we're meant to be standing on the top of the ball, that's relativity, and down there is where Africa is, or wherever, South America in your case, yeah, down there. Yeah, so that curvature should be measurable. And when I discovered that the formula for the curvature is 8 inches per mile squared, I plugged that into my calculator and I plugged that into my mind, and when I've been to places in the world, I've stood on coastlines and seen things 20 miles, 30 miles away. How is that possible if there's this amount of curvature in play? Well, really, truly, it's not. Water is always going to find level. Water will always find level, and we cannot prove that we're spinning.
Then explain, like a while ago, the ship thing.
Yeah, it was someone around Columbus's time.
I'll explain it. Someone around Columbus's time, he sent a ship off into the distance. They were on the beach, and the ship gradually got smaller and smaller.
And to finish what and more importantly, as part of the globe argument, is that the ship disappears from the hull first. So the bottom of the ship disappears first. Now, guess what? If your brother, I assume this is your brother, and you had to do a little experiment at home. Let's say you've got a really long football pitch or some other acknowledged flat piece of ground that everyone would agree is a flat piece of ground. In fact, like you could go, there's states in America that are flatter than pancakes. But you could go to places like the Salt Flats in Bolivia, which are thousands of square miles of flatness. You put the camera on the ground and then start to walk away. And as you walk into the distance, not only are you going to get smaller because of perspective, but your ankles will go, your feet and your ankles and your knees will go first. And then eventually you will lose the person all the way up to the head and you won't be able to see them at all. But they haven't gone over anything, it's absolutely flat. This is just perspective and angle of resolution. Because guess what? If you were watching your brother walk away from you and now he's all completely disappeared, you could get into a hot air balloon and go just to 50 meters of altitude and go, there he is. Well, I can see him again. Not only can I see him, I can see more flat ground past him. Now I allow him to walk for another hour, guess what, you'll lose him again. And he will look back at the hot air balloon and say, whoa, you're really close to the ground. It looks like you're touching the ground from back here. But as he walks back towards the hot air balloon, his head will go up and up and up and go, Dad, sorry, my eyes. He'll go, whoa, you're right up there. But when I was over there, you look like you were close to the ground. That's perspective.
Fall off
What?
the edge.
Well, the assumption that there's an edge is what we are brainwashed with when we are 6 years old. When you're 6 and 7 years old, you go to school and they say, people, very simple people, used to believe that the earth was flat. Ha 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 ha, that's so ridiculous because you would just sail off the edge. Well, anyone who's researched flat earth at all knows that there has to be some kind of containment. Water, liquid, unless it's frozen, must be contained. It has to be contained. You can't give me an example of water that isn't inside of a lake, a cup, or whatever. You know, but once a teardrop or rain is not contained, but however, once it falls and strikes the ground, it will pool, and if that pool fills up, it will overflow and run down, always down, to the next pool. So we must be in an enclosure.
But what if the water wasn't like that, and it had just stayed around the Earth by the gravitational force that pulled it into?
Okay, so that's a theory, right?
I believe it is scientifically proven.
No, you'd be believing wrong. It's still a theory. It's called a theory of gravity. And because something that's more dense than the air falls to the floor, they then extend it through relativity and other clever means to the idea that water can stick to the underside of a ball. But in physics, we cannot demonstrate that.
Then how come Magellan circumnavigated the Earth?
Well, you can circumnavigate. Let's say we're in London, okay? I don't know how well you know London, or Atlanta, okay? Atlanta's a big city. You've probably got like a big motorway or highway that runs around the city. Well, you can circumnavigate Atlanta. You can take an off turn at junction 15 and drive in and visit something, then drive back out at junction 15 and carry on that circumnavigation. And on a flat Earth, which is how all sailors sailed once upon a time, then you can do that. You can all the circumnavigation, all the world Vendée, all the world around the world sailing routes. If you map them on a flat Earth map, which by the way is the same as the United Nations logo map, which is the same as the USGS map, all of these use the same flat Earth projection. This one that I got on my chest here, this one here, this is the USGS, this is the United Nations logo, and you can circumnavigate that all day long, or for months and months and months.
I would suggest.
You know what though? I've had a very weird thing. I don't want to talk about it that much. I put the video out yesterday. It's my friend Ron who was murdered in America in June. And I knew that they were going to lie. I just did. And they've got the blue line, which means that they can protect themselves under a different law, and we have to have a different law. So the police are bogus as far as I'm concerned. But my friend Ron, right, they put on this bit, and then what it is it's supposed to be his talk with the responder. But you hear Ron, you hear the ringing, and you hear the responder answering. So what is that? Because that cannot be real. You cannot have Ron talking before he's spoken to the responder. So that doesn't add up. And then when they don't mention this at all in this whole video, they just show you these clips showing you shooting him and all that. It's horrible. And then what it is while he's actually dead on the floor, you can hear them still shooting. And a woman on the day said she heard them firing next to her garden, which isn't next to Ron. So they've lied about what happened that day. So that happened in June. They just lie about everything.
Well, rest in peace, Ron. And it's really devastating that's happened. You know, there's a thing about.
And you know what? Listen, Ron did have some guns. His auntie told me that they were actually on his sofa, but they left all the guns. Why would the police, after a shooting there, leave the guns and not secure them? And then not just that, his aunt said he never had a gun like that, and then the gun isn't next to his body, it's over there. And then also there's all these people driving around on the road. It's like, don't you secure the area first before you start shooting at people, because you can kill other people by accident. So the whole thing doesn't add up. And I'm thinking, wow, I thought, did he lose it and this all happened, or was he actually still the innocent party? And they've made the rest up and made it look like this, and they killed him in cold blood, basically. But I've been watching a few of those police things. They just shoot you. They don't care. Put it down. You don't put it down. Bang, 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 bang. You're dead.
Yes.
Wow. I'm glad.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad that our police aren't quite as bad as that. I'm sure they can be if you're in the wrong situation. But generally, you don't get a police officer and you think I might be dead in 5 minutes.
No, I know, and I mean, America seems a little bit
They're out of control.
You know, if they think they almost have a license to kill if
It's
they
shoot to kill. I saw this one about these teenagers dying, and what it was is they'd nicked a car and they were reversing, and they went into a police officer's car. He didn't shoot the tyres. He shot straight through the window, killing the boy. He was 17, and there was a girl who was also 17. She was pregnant, and it killed her baby because they shot them. So why didn't he shoot the tyres? They were 17.
Wow.
They just, and I watched it, I don't want to go on about it that much because we're talking to you, but the last one, I was watching this woman, she called the police because she felt someone was hanging around, but she was a bit weird. She's talking to the police and she's looking through her phone, and I think that's all weird, but anyway, and then she went over to get some boiling water and she said something, and that police officer took it that she was going to throw the water on him and he shot her dead. But she wasn't, she just said something and he shot her dead in the kitchen, and they're with her and they're saying she's still gasping for air, and you think, oh my God, how can you accept these police officers? They are out of control.
Yeah.
That's what we're living in. I hope that, I mean, other countries have horrible police as well. I really, anyway.
Well, I mean, on Christmas Day in 2021, 8 policemen surrounded me on the beach. I was talking to an African lady, handing her a flyer about, don't go along with the needles and the face masks and stuff like that. I printed some flyers, 5,000 of them, which I gave out myself. And on this particular day, these 8 cops surrounded me and they physically pushed me off the beach because I wasn't wearing a mask. And so the irony of me being pushed off the beach as a white boy being pushed off the beach by black policemen, it's funny because 40 years earlier, black boys were being pushed off the beach by white policemen.
Funny how things have changed then, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing about racism or whatever is that people will do, because they're being paid a salary, and then because their minds have been altered, they will do things to each other. And see, American police have had their minds altered. They operate from a place of fear. And so this is why
they carried on in this video with Ron, and you would never have thought that police officer just killed someone with 12 bullets. He wasn't stunned, nothing. He just said, we need to get to the house and get the other person out. And then the woman came running, going, I think that's a woman's voice. And that's where you hear bang, bang, bang. Ron's dead on the floor, supposedly. That's him. You can't quite tell who it is, but there's someone on the floor dead, or a dummy, or whatever it is. And then you hear bang, 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 and he's dead. So they don't mention those bullets. It's like, what? Something else happened that day, and they're not going to tell the truth.
No.
And Ron had 4 cameras on his lawn. He was capturing the moon and the sun and things in the sky. And so they know what happened because his cameras were out there. I can't believe they didn't actually say, you can't drive down here, get away. They were just firing. And then they said that the police officer had done it correctly. And you think, no, he didn't. He did it all wrong.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But anyway, there's nothing I can do. I don't live in America, and I'm just so sad about Ron. But something's very wrong there.
Karen, we live in a world that is...
not real?
Well, I mean, nature is so perfect, and, obviously there's things that are being done in the sky and whatever to spoil that, and our cities are becoming, increasingly tight and so on. I mean, this policewoman in Speaker's Corner comes up to me while I'm talking. She says, "Boy, you can't do that." I'm like, "Well, I do this all the time." She said, "No, that's criminal damage."
Oh my God.
We're putting chalk
I
on
suppose
a
it's what you
sidewalk.
listen to, but people don't understand. We all started off as globies, even if we weren't sure about things, and because of things, we've changed our mind. All of it was a shock to us. Sometimes it took weeks to digest some of the stuff. Even if you knew it, you were still repeating it over because you're like, wow, this is just incredible. Because it's the complete opposite of what you've been taught. But we had to go through all that shock. It wasn't that easy for us either.
Oh, no. I mean, in some ways, it should be easier today.
Well, yeah,
because
now
there are
you
so
know
many
that they've
people.
lied and what you're living on. You feel more at peace with what you know. But it still was a journey. We've changed our minds a little bit over time once we've realised more information or something. And we haven't got anybody helping.
No,
Just
no,
the
no, no. But I
people.
mean, there's so many more people. Like, so I went back on Facebook recently, and I, sort of got drawn into a few of these sort of globe versus flat kind of Facebook groups, and there are a lot of angry anti flat Earth types, but there's so many people now that by comparison to 2016.
Yeah, I think Facebook and YouTube are full of trolls, by the way. I think that they're paid to do it. But can I just say one thing? Dave, the view count for this video is 559. Well done, mate. Well done.
Thank you.
That's a good number, isn't it?
That's a decent number. I mean, it's funny enough, although because I lost my other YouTube channel, but I remember one day walking out of Speaker's Corner after having done 5 hours or 6 hours. This is back in 2018 or maybe 2019, and I'd had 1,500 views. I was like, wow, in the time that I was doing the live, I had views. And I haven't got anywhere close to that in the
Well, they deem me the same. My Unscrambled channel, I was viral. One of my videos got to 650,000. My videos would be 20, 30,000 a view because I was saying something different on this case. And then YouTube afterwards, not when it was happening, but afterwards deleted that channel. And they deleted the original Sun and Moon, which had quite a few thousand on it. It's about 10,000.
Yeah. You were like, in 2017, you were like one of the biggest, like certainly one of the most interesting and biggest channels that I...
Oh, okay.
You were having some fantastic guests, really, great and deep conversations that I found, useful and informative and so on. So
yeah, it's a bit annoying because we started out as a research group, but because of things happening and the way that YouTube changed, I went with the people in the end. So it doesn't mean I can't talk to people like you or talk to other people. We just don't. I don't brandish those words, the flatty ones, but that's what I am. So I'm not changing my mind either.
Yeah. So I mean, where does it all take us? Where are we heading? I guess more and more people are going to see that the system is corrupted.
Don't you think it's really strange that you have senses, Dave? And they've made you lose touch with your senses and not believe what you really see. They're telling you it's something else.
Yes. And I feel like there's people out there
That means if you're on the globe, whichever way you are, just say, you're down there a little bit. Because you're 20, 30 miles from me, so you're down there or up there a little bit, depending on which bit of the ball.
Actually, I made it this morning. I went for a little walk, jog, trying to get a little bit fitter, and up onto a hill called Box Hill in Surrey. And I videoed my video down from there and made a joke about relativity. Because, relativity is something that we all buy into by the age of 10 or 12. The theory of relativity that has every teacher in the world telling every pupil or student that they are standing on the top of the globe. So, and even as a child, I'd go, but how does everybody get to be on the top? Now, that's what relativity, because we're so big, because there's this theory of relativity, thanks to Einstein.
NASA say that you can't see it 200 and whatever miles up it is on the Earth, so you can't see a curve up there.
No.
So basically what they're telling us is we're obviously living on a much bigger piece of land, and there's land that we can't go to because we're not allowed to go there.
Yes, but relativity would have us all on the top of a surface that doesn't seem to be curved.
I used that in one of my videos about you. I can't remember whether we talked about it on a hangout or I put that bit in from a video that you did. I remember that.
Yeah, so, I mean, and that's obviously, physically impossible for everybody to be on the top of a ball. If we're spread around the so-called globe, then some people have to be on the side of the globe. And when you go on a ship or a plane from the side of the globe, let's say South Africa,
it's amazing we don't fly off into space, isn't it?
But you're having to go uphill, on the side of a ball, and you're an ant on the side of the ball, and you would be walking up to get to England. You wouldn't be going down. But according to every other, every globe head, they'll tell you that, no, you're going down from South Africa to England. But how can that be the case? If I'm going down from England to South Africa...
Well, they're not even telling the truth of that. I feel that England is lying on its side. That's why Scotland gets this extra hour. And that means that Africa won't be below us. It'll be almost at the side. And that's why the sun is north, because Europe actually is over there. It's not the way they say it is. So that's why the sun is north in England. It has to be there, because that has to be the European summer. It's over there. It's not where we think it is. And until we know that, how can you ever work anything out properly if you don't even know where you're lying on this piece of land?
Well, I do sometimes drive around. I was driving into Spain a few years ago on my way to Portugal. I was driving through Spain, and I was like, damn, this doesn't feel right. Geographically, it doesn't feel like I'm heading in the right direction.
Portugal's the same time zone as us.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
When you look on their map, there's no way it lines up quite like that. But then a part of Africa's on the same timeline as us.
That's right.
I mean, that's crazy in itself, isn't it? But that's because they're lying.
Well, yeah, but I mean, even I guess from a flat Earth perspective or projection of how the continents look, I'm still not sure that we necessarily have that right either. I do.
Well, I think you'll find it gets darker in Cornwall quicker than it does here, because they're actually down below us a bit, because we're lying on our side.
Right.
But who knows? I can't prove it. But that's my feeling by a few experiment things I did, like where true north was. There were just things that happened, and I thought, we're lying on our side. And I told you that, I did this video. The Union Jack fits so nicely over the star map. It's a bit like a Gleason map. It isn't. It's still square, but it covers the southern hemisphere in both these things. But it's the fact that when you put the Union Jack on it, I can tell you, I can look it all up. And I thought, oh, there's Jamaica. It's on a crisscross. It's got a crisscross green and orange, isn't it? Green and yellow, whichever colour. What is it? Green and orange? Yellow.
And black.
Right, but so is Scotland. So they live on the crisscross of the Union Jack. And I worked out, you can work out nearly all the flags. It doesn't matter whether they're crosses, crisscrosses, triangles, lines. Not all of the flags, but nearly all the flags have these things in them. And they come from a part of that Union Jack. It doesn't matter about the colours. But basically, I mean, how many flags have got triangles in them? So they live somewhere on the triangle of that map. Anyway, that was my thing on that. It just fits perfectly on top of the star map, the Union Jack.
Right.
But that means we're just a little pod, and there's got to be other pods. Probably.
Yeah, I have this. Yeah, I have so many different. I try and keep an open mind and have these different theories, and sometimes they compete with each other.
Yeah, because you go one way and you think, oh, that's madness. And then you go, oh, that's madness. It's all madness because, you've got theories, haven't you? You think.
Yeah. Well, because, here's the thing, and this is what we have to be comfortable with, is that we may never know the full extent of this realm in this lifetime. So if we, and I very much want to stress this to anyone listening, is that if we spend our time vexating and fixating on what we don't know, or what we'd really love to know, we might end up missing the trick, because the most important thing here is you. You are the center of the universe, in my opinion, and you are the reason. All of this deception has been designed to prevent you ever discovering that. So if you feel like, if all you had to discover was, what is the true shape of the Earth? Is there an ice wall? Is it this? Is it that? Or whatever? Is, Charles a lizard? If we had to, if that's all we ever focus on,
that bit right. It is all AI and computers. There are no lizards. It's just how they've manipulated videos, and that's full speed. You don't see it. When you start to slow it down just a tiny bit, you see their mistakes. It's all made in a basement, just like they did with, what was it, the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Space is made in the basement. It's all made in the basement. Yeah, it's all made for you. But people then go, oh, look, he's transformed into a reptilian. I don't think there's any such thing. I think it's all computers.
Well, here's a thought for you, okay?
Programs.
So a big part of my journey and my awakening was taking DMT in 2015. And during the DMT experience, which lasted 7 or 8 minutes, something like that, I was being guided by a chap who was an old friend from the 90s when I'd been living in Cape Town. And when I looked at him, because within sort of 20 or 30 seconds of going into the DMT, my brain was working on sort of hyperspeed. Everything was crystal clear. I was getting this insight, and it was incredible. But my eyes are open, and I'm looking around the space, and all of the space is just light, frequency. All the walls, the trees, the plants, the water, everything. I couldn't resolve it as bricks or trees. It was just I could tell that I was like, damn, that's the tree. It's just pulsing. Or this palm tree is just pulsing green, and everything is just light and frequency, which is why I'm so fascinated by the electromagnetic universe idea. But the reason I'm telling you the story is because when I'd first gone into the DMT, excuse me, it had been extremely frightening. It was like I was dying, and everything that I cared about was being ripped away from me, and I was slipping away. And my friend who was taking me through the ceremony, he took my hand. And so as I sort of came to, out of that first 30 seconds of abject fear, I'd started looking around, and I look at his hand and his arm is just light. It's just, he's not flesh, he's light. And then I look, because I'm partially paralyzed in this period of time, and I look up towards his face, and it takes me a few seconds because my head's not working at normal speed, and all my muscles are not working at normal speed. And I look up to his face, and his face looked alien. It looked like something out of the Sigourney Weaver movie, and his eyes
of loss curvature, according to the globe. But what they teach you when you're small is that the ship, when you're standing on the beach, goes away, gets smaller, and it disappears whole from the bottom up. Yeah. Well, we can do the same experiment with your friend and you, where we put the camera right on the ground here, and you walk away along a perfectly level, known level piece of ground, and you'll find that his ankles disappear first.
What about satellite pictures?
Satellite pictures
are
all, so they're all given to us by the government, and all of them are admitted to be CGI, computer-generated images. All of them. There's not one that they can say, this is a guy with a camera who took this photo. Other than stuff that's taken from high-level drones, maybe 40 miles, 30 miles, they can get up there with a helium balloon or whatever, and they can take a picture down. And then they say, that's us from space. No, it's not. They're just taking high-level, like Google Earth.
But why does it appear like a globe if you do this?
How does it appear like?
If you go with a drone 40, 50 miles up, it does give a little shape of
Okay, so it depends on the camera. If they use a wide-angle lens, then as you go off the horizontal, it bends the horizon like this. So the horizon can bend this way, it can bend that way. Now flat earthers have taken helium balloons to 120,000 feet. We're using a regular camera, and as far as they go up high, all they see is level. Other people have now taken infrared cameras, and they've gone up in a plane with the infrared, and they can cut through the clouds and the moisture with infrared and see across America to the Rocky Mountains, over 1,000 miles. And they can prove this is...
I want to ask you...
His eyes, they were like, I'm like, that's Joey's eyes, that's not his face. And I slowly reached my other hand.
That would be so horrible if they're here and they're just masked. So it's a bit like that film with Roddy Piper. And that is actually happening. And actually there's all these lizard people here. I would hate that.
That may be true, you see. As I say to people, like we
don't know what we're living in. We're kind of living in a virtual reality, aren't we, with the sun coming up? NASA gave Dave Marsh 500 years of the moon rises. So they can predict all these things. What are we living in? It's like a simulation almost.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it is.
I mean, are we in a computer game? But we just think we're real. I don't know. Where does our voice come from?
Well, we leave that on. I mean, your voice is, again, like I said, everything that is vibration, everything is just a tone. So even the walls, bricks, stone, trees, these things at their base level are just frequency or vibration. Think about your TV when you used to watch TV.
Why are
Your
you,
TV
you know, I did say when we came on, you know, my Mickey really wanted to hang out with you. So if he's somewhere, he'll be jealous right now. But
Yeah,
like,
hello, Mickey, and
yeah, my
I do
lovely
hope you're
Mickey,
listening
I
in.
miss
I'm
him
sorry you're
so
not part of
much.
it.
I'm going to go to his
But,
grave on the 2nd of November. It's basically next to the anniversary of him dying. I'm going to go up there, and I'm not looking forward to it, but I need to go and see his grave. I haven't had any money to do it. He lives quite, his home, like Carl Shorten's quite a long way for me. It's about 4 hours.
Right.
So, and it's not even a nice journey, is it? Because I'm going to his grave, but I need to do it. So, yeah. But anyway,
It'll be very rewarding
if
for
it's so,
you to go.
Mickey's sitting in. He used to sit in this chair next to me, and he'll be sitting in there listening away to you, Dave. But that is strange because I thought if there's an afterlife, I would somehow feel Mickey, but I don't.
Well, when I took the DMT, now my mother died in 2011, 4 years before I did the DMT, and I was an atheist. But my mother was talking to me to calm me down. When I went through the near-death part of the DMT process, that first 30 seconds, it was my mother. I'm like, that's my mom talking to me. She was like, you know, calming me down. There was a male voice and her voice, and I was like, that's mom. So
That's crazy, isn't
and
it?
I was
You weren't expecting that, were you?
not at all. Now think about your TV. Your TV receives.
Well, I've seen images on there. I made videos about it, and there was an orb over my bed. So I'm thinking, oh, is that Mickey? But it's not the same.
Well,
It's not like Mickey's talking to me and giving me a cuddle and loving me, is it? It's just things. But, you know, that Ron, he used to capture loads of things on his camera. And even when they did the TV footage, there are 2 anomalies in that. There's things moving outside his house.
right.
Orbs of some kind. But there's this thing flying around the police officers. It's almost as if there's a guns on them. You know, and the marksman's got a gun on them, and you can see that little mark. There was this thing flying around there, but it was white. And they're not going to have a gun like that on a police officer, are they?
No.
And it was on the news, for God's sake, unless it's a stock footage. And then this other one was this orb, like I saw in my bedroom, went across the camera, and you think, well, they make a lot of things up, but they wouldn't be able to make that up.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know.
I do think that we're in. Just imagine that we were in some kind of bubble.
Well, yeah, but our
and
skin's made of silicon, like a computer. It's like we're not Trons, are we? We're like a Tron, the film Tron.
Yeah, you know, I've got to leave that on the table as a possibility. I prefer the idea that we are, you know, this is a real nature and it's a real experience and so on.
What was
But
the
you know, we
point,
could
though,
be living
Dave?
inside
If
of.
we come here
We could be
and we're gods, what's the point if we come here and we're all gods? What was that for? Because we die anyway. Everybody's
No,
dead
yeah,
here.
but
There's only a few
okay, so
alive.
well, I think of it like this. Firstly, let me just say, like your TV shows you a picture, but actually all it's receiving is electrical impulses, right? And then you see all sorts of interesting things on your TV. Well, your brain is a similar thing, is that it's encoding electrical impulses as wood, brick, grass, and so on. So everything is actually just electrical. And I think of it like this, that we are something much higher and something that's eternal. And I only got this information, I primarily got this from the DMT experience, and then I've researched it in the years since. But we come from something much higher, and then we've been dropped into this experience for a growing or a learning or whatever. Some people say we've been put in here as some kind of punishment or whatever.
Well, it could be
and I
hell,
don't know.
couldn't it? Because we have to let go of people all the time because they keep dying. It's not very nice. I mean, my world's a little bit grey at the moment. My dad and Mickey within 6 months of each other. It's just quite a lot to take on. I mean, I know they've gone, but you don't feel that happy. I feel quite grey at times.
Yeah. But I think, this is what I would
What a
love
horrible
to
place that we've got to lose everybody. We don't live very long, so why don't they just leave us alone?
Well, I mean, there's 2 parts to it. One is that this is Satan's kind of
playground?
domain or has controlled it. Yep. And the other is that you're here to have a certain experience, and then it's like, let's just say you've got a year pass, an annual pass to go to Disneyland. Not that I would recommend anyone do that, but you've got an annual pass to go to Disneyland. You've got all these rides and all the different things that you can enjoy there. And some people leave the park earlier than others, but you've got to decide, well, I'm still in the park and I've got, 6 months left on my annual pass, and I'm going to try and make the most of it and do the best for myself, despite it being, Walt Disney's pedo, farm or whatever. So, that's what I think we've got to. That's what we've got to take from this, because we could lose ourselves in the misery of.
Or was it about finding yourself here? You've got to find yourself. The most important thing is you know who you are. Can I just say one thing? This little bit of video that's playing, I've seen 3 or 4 children in the audience.
Oh, is this in Speaker's Corner?
Yeah, there's a little girl with a sort of yellow, orange, pink dress on, and she's with her dad. I don't think he's so impressed, but I think the mum's listening. There's 2 there. There was a little boy on the side here. There he is. Or that might be her brother. He's got a green T-shirt on, and they're listening to you. Well, he's definitely listening.
Yeah. I think I had a great conversation with those young people, and I think they came with some brilliant questions, actually.
Well, I might put a little bit of that in this video.
Yeah, do that. It was a really nice interaction with them, and I think, I don't know where you are in the video, but I remember having a few conversations with some young people on Sunday.
Well, there's a mixture, because there's like kids there, then there's like 2 young people, then there's like 20-year-olds, and then there's a mother there. She must be in her 30s or 40s. There's someone else there, but I can't see him, but that's a good different range of people. There's someone else standing there as well. There's a black guy there, and the girl's got like a red T-shirt with black stripes on it. She's got sunglasses on.
Well, you know what, I think...
You've had your little cards out, Dave. Your little cards are on the edge of the picture.
Yeah. Well, you know what? See, Speaker's Corner is predominantly like religious people squabbling with each other, but they're a little bit away from where I put my banner up, and so where I was standing is a bit of a throughway that people walk into the park or out of the park. So I sometimes catch, or I hope to catch tourists and people that aren't engaged in the melee of insanity around religion and so on. And so that's what those conversations were, with just people who, and I think in that case, if I remember who they were, they'd already heard about Flat Earth, and this is where a lot of people are. It's like in the school playground, that, people will be going, you know what, some people say the Earth's flat. This is why it's ridiculous. And so they've come to me with some of the sort of obvious, and even school teachers will be going, well, there's people saying today that the Earth is flat, and these are the reasons why that's not right, because of this, and this. And so they came sort of preloaded with some great questions, which I was able to field for them, and, in a soft way, because obviously I'm dealing with youngsters.
Yeah.
And funny enough, at some point, this older man who'd been standing near my banner and scowling and grumbling, I could tell he wasn't happy with it. But after about half an hour of listening to me talk to these youngsters, damn, you got some interesting points here. Let me take one of your flyers. And he was, so...
Well done, Dave. They say if you change one person's mind, it's worked.
Yeah, no, I definitely, and I had a few other people at some point say, and this is not the first time this happened, they say, damn, you're the most sensible conversation I've been standing around here listening to people, arguing for hours, and this is the most interesting conversation. You haven't changed my mind necessarily, but certainly this is the most interesting conversation I've had with anyone.
Oh, well done, Dave.
So we'll be back there on Sunday, this coming Sunday, which is whatever, the 5th or something, I can't remember, but I may have Dave Murphy with me.
Just giving the little girl a card. The young one with the black T-shirt, you're just giving her a card.
Let me see if
Maybe it'll be hip to have those cards soon. Oh, look what's in my wallet.
This is a new flyer I've had made. One that is more about love and finding yourself, because really that's really what flat Earth is.
Yeah, people don't understand. I don't think it's not even to me. When I joined it, it wasn't just about what we were living on; it was everything. And that has to be you as well, because unless you know who you are, you can't move forward at all, because you'll never know what you want.
Well, this is, I mean, however, whatever the reason is we're here, and whoever's orchestrating all of this, I really do feel like, as I said earlier, you are the center of the universe. You are the reason for all of this. And I know for certain that we have been tricked into participating at the sheep level, whether it's in the politics or at the Protestant or Protestant level, which is that we're anti all of that stuff and fighting against it, and we know that we've been lied to and all of that sort of stuff. So that's like the left and the right wing. That's either the going along or the fighting against it.
I mean, it might be that we live in a realm, and like, I just don't understand how when I see that sun up there, it's in, say, Cornwall at the same time. I don't get it, because it's not that far above my head. So I don't quite we don't understand everything, but we know we're not living on what they say.
No, we're not. But the thing is that we're meant to do this work. We're meant to heal ourselves. We're meant to fix ourselves. We're meant to take some kind of
you become more of a real person, don't you, when you wake up and you know who you are, and your life changes.
Well, it's not a given. I mean, this is important to
You've got to do
stress.
homework. I mean, we were talking about that a few years ago, weren't we? Or a year ago when we did a hangout. You've got to do homework. You've got to know what you mean. You've got to understand it all.
Know thyself, be the whole of the law. To know thyself and to come at one with what you are, because the insanity, but you can be in a place of harmony, equanimity.
Yeah, do you know, one of the things I love about it, right, is that it's a place where ego is not the important thing here. And that's how you spot people who haven't woken up, because they're so ego-based. It's not that we don't have egos. It's not if someone upsets me, I might have a go at them. But our persona is that it's not about our ego. It's about learning and growing and loving and everything. It's different.
Yeah, although obviously,
because what they're trained, they're different.
I mean, look, so I describe it like this: that we are meant to be the good shepherd, and the good shepherd has a staff, and that staff might be your spine, and at the top of your spine is the sheep, and at the bottom of your spine is the goat, and we are meant to come into balance in between the two, which is where your heart is, which is the earth. And so we're meant to come into kind of the green, neutral kind of place, earthing, which is what we do with electrical things, is we're meant to earth them, we're meant to ground them, we're meant to be in harmony.
We're electric, the trees are electric, the ground's electric, the air's electric, the sun's electric, but we're able to live here. And then you've got all these frequencies around us, like radio waves and all sorts of things, and don't forget they harp us and all that crap. But we still are sort of okay.
We can only live successfully on the earth at the center. We can't go too high into the sky, it's too cold.
I've just done a video about that. We live on a little, it just living in, it's a fish tank, and the blue sky doesn't go up that far. At 33 miles, this balloon is in the black, looking down at the. I'm not calling it a marble because it's round. The marble effect, that view you see. I was like, wow, how high are planes flying?
Only 6 miles.
And on the videos, this guy was coming down, and he got to 5,200 feet, and he'd just come through the clouds. So I looked that up. It's not even a mile. It's like 0.98 of a mile.
Oh, a lot of our clouds are even lower than that.
Yeah. I live up here on the Wessex Downs. I think they're closer. Yeah, I know.
Some days you can go onto a mountain that's, say, 300 meters, 400 meters high and already be in the cloud. And look down onto areas that are well below the cloud. So
that happened on Clearwell when I was with James. It wasn't that it was a thick cloud, but what it was is we were up there, and I just said, why is it all murky, James? I said, look, it's like we're in a haze. And I said to him, oh my God, James, we're in a little, like a slight cloud. You were in it.
The drive from Durban on the east coast of South Africa to Johannesburg is a 5 or 6 hour drive. And then the first hour and a half to 2 hours, you rise up almost a kilometer onto what they call the escarpment. And it really is quite a steep climb. But as you go through that, as you're sort of that hour or so of really steep climbing, you will go through a cloud bank and then get into clear skies. And then further on, you go higher and you'll go through another layer of clouds. So we get these levels.
I mean, there obviously is sometimes different layers of clouds, but the ones that you see the most, they're not very high away. And you think they're harping those?
Yeah, not at all.
It's bad.
And England's a very low-lying country. You know, there isn't much that's more than 300 or 400 meters above the same sea level.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But you know, so everything is much less, and this is the Goldilocks zone, where they say that Earth is inside the Goldilocks zone between the sun and whatever, but that's all bollocks, of course. But where we live is the Goldilocks zone. We can't go too high in altitude. Anything over 4,000 meters, 5,000 meters, it's inhospitable. And even I've been into a gold mine in South Africa, and at 2 kilometers down, it is so hot, you are sweating buckets, you know, just hanging out there. So we live in this perfect place in nature. Now, in your body, right, in your lower chakras, there's all the red, the hot, can be the angry. That's where the goat is. That's where the fighter is, right? And then in the upper part of your body, which is the blue chakras and the purple and so on, this is the sky. This is the heavens, if you like. And so we're not meant to be living up in the sky, in the sheep brain, or in the groin, which is the lower. We're meant to be in the middle, which is in the balance, in harmony, in the heart. And then that's what we're meant to be finding on this journey, is this balance. And so it's so important that people don't lose themselves forever in the goat, I'm going to fight, or lose themselves forever in the sheep, I'm just going to go along and be the good shit.
You have to know who you are as a person. Your life won't work until you do that. It could be a long battle or a short battle, but you've got to work out who you are.
Well,
and why you're who you are.
Well, the course that Andrea and I run is very much about trying to inculcate.
Do you want me to go over to that bit, Dave, so we can start looking at that?
Yeah.
Okay, 2 seconds.
The course that Andrea and I have developed is very much about trying to take the pressure off people and say that, you know, it's an ongoing journey of, it's not linear, you know, you don't sort of, one day you wake up and all of your problems and you're now living in perfect.
You mean it's a mindset?
It is an ongoing journey of self-realization, self-actualization, and we need to give ourselves the tools and the space to discover who and remember who we truly are. And in that process, we will come into more balance. Now, there's going to be days when something happens that either gets you into the sheep or the goat state of mind, and then you sort of fall out of that neutrality or that balance. But with practice, you know, you can bring yourself back into harmony much more quickly, much more easily. And so whatever's coming down the pipeline, and there's stuff coming down the pipeline, where are you going to be when that happens? Are you going to be in that sheep or goat state, or are you going to be in balance and be more like reticent or more like at ease with the nature of things here? Because
can I just say one thing? Probably for you, Dave, talking from experience, your life has changed so much, and you've got to be like that because you don't really maybe know where you're going to be in 6 months right now, but you've got to calm down and do differently, because otherwise you go mad. Because your life's, 1 minute you're here, 1 minute you're there. I'm sure you like it though, all the travelling.
Well, I mean, for people who don't know my story, we've been almost 5 years on the road now.
Wow,
and really,
that's cool, really.
that's 5 years living out of a suitcase.
Yeah, we used to have hangouts in your house.
Yeah. So, and then since then, I've never counted it, but it's, we must be approaching somewhere towards 200 different accommodation, different places, different beds, different towns and whatever, in the 5 years that we've been on the move, and that creates a whole lot of destabilizing. But most people have got.
Hey Dave, you have to look at it that you're always on holiday.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that for a lot of times.
No, I bet it doesn't. Sometimes you've been a bit stressed out about things. I know.
Oh my gosh, and finances.
So what this whole thing is, you've got to your program because partly of your own life.
But this is the great thing about experience.
Should we put it on? Should we put that on so people, as you're talking, I can just leave it on for people to read?
Yeah.
One second, everybody. So, very professional, lovely. Explain more, Dave.
Okay. Well, what you're looking at is, I suppose, our homepage for our home program, which is, we're expressing the word Om, which is the primordial kind of God sound, if you like, or sound of creation, Om, which was originally spelled A-U-M, and home and Om home is where the heart is, and we are very keen to help guide others.
Most people don't realise your body. We're like crabs. Our body is our home.
Yeah, and the temple of God is what your body is. I think it's there, and as I was saying earlier, the heart is the center. It's the place where love emanates from. It is the green chakra. And what we're doing is, we had a masterclass a few weeks ago as an introductory offering, which was a free masterclass. But what we've done is we put together a 4-day Zoom call program, and we very much want to see people's faces on the Zoom call because it's about connecting energetically. We are energetic beings. And if we're going to help one another, because as you were saying, it's a lonely path. If we're going to help one another, then we're going to have to do it by connecting energetically. And we're spread around the world, and there's not that many of us, and it's not like you can.
It's also a good way to talk, Dave.
It's great to talk, and it's great to yeah, and it's a great way to kind of unpack some of your own challenges that you're experiencing, and to have them framed, and to have a way of perceiving them, and a way of understanding them better and addressing them. And so this program is designed as a sort of starter, because it's 4 2-hour evening sessions that we've arranged for this OM program, or the home program, and it's a homecoming to who you truly are. And that's really what we're trying to encourage people, because we're obviously, you and I and those listening, have obviously gone through the whole horror story of how this world is set up. But what we need to do is to focus inward, because we understand all the outside stuff, and we'll talk about some of the external stuff if that comes up in the course of the conversations. However, the focus is on you and on how to help you return to who you truly are, and to find that loving, balanced place from which you can express yourself and experience this world, despite the insanity, the craziness of this man-made mayhem that's befalling us. So that's what our home program is. We do offer at the end of the program an extra half hour of one-on-one coaching or support, and then if people choose to continue working with either Andrea and I or both of us, then we will do some, a program of one-to-one coaching individually. We will be doing, this program again in the future. But this one is due to start, I think, the 15th of this month.
15th, 16th, 17th, and then the day 4 is on the 21st.
Yeah, so that's like a sort of integration day. So we're going to do three evenings, 2 hours each, and then give people a little bit of time to contemplate, integrate that information, and then come back for one more session to try and tie that all up and close the container in a constructive way for people. And so that's our own program. We've done it at a really cheap price of £69 for the course, because we really want to try and encourage people to start that process. Whether they continue with us or not is up to them. But we wanted to try and encourage people to come in, because one of the things I've realized about those of us who have come to so much truth is that we've all been traumatized. Not just truth seekers, but all of us have been traumatized. And now that you know that you've been traumatized, you see, you've come out of the farm, and you know that now you come from a battery farm.
Yeah, because I think what it is, we harbour it, and we treat ourselves like we were treated, rather than coming to terms with it and treating ourselves differently. We end up treating ourselves like our parents treated us.
Yeah, and in a way, like if you were raised on a battery farm, and you stay on that battery farm, you may never need to face this stuff. However, if you leave the battery farm, and now you're sort of fending for yourself and discovering who you truly are, then there is a whole process of, okay, you need to stop staring at the farm and shouting at everybody who's in the farm saying, come with me. You need to work on yourself first. And then once you've done that work, others that are in the farm might say, hey, damn, you've done some great work there, and I'm really enjoying. It appeals to me. I'd like to know more, and I'd like to maybe leave the farm myself. And seeing how you're thriving would encourage me.
I think you have to sort of learn that no one's going to take care of you except you. And until you wake up and grow up, it ain't going to work.
Yeah.
You have to be responsible for yourself.
The truth is written on your heart, and you can discover it. But if you have been mistreated, misaligned, and I believe that we all have been to a greater or lesser extent, then yes, it is only you that's going to be able to fix that. As I say, if your friend comes to you who's an alcoholic, it's only, you can give them all the advice and so on, but it's only them who's going to stop, their addictive behavior. And it's really difficult to do that, because generally that addictive behavior is based in some assuaging or medicating of a particular trauma. So
in fact, Dave, most people probably don't even realise they've got it.
Yes. No, of course not. And this is the point.
It sits in your subconscious. So when if they do go and look at their life, they'll know it was, oh yeah, I remember that now. Because it's in your subconscious. But
that's right. A lot of it, you're quite right.
It's not just about what we're living on. That, once you know who you are as a person, you're more in peace with yourself.
Mm-hmm. Andrea is.
It doesn't mean our lives are perfect. It doesn't mean that you don't have to face things.
Of course not. In fact, it means you definitely have to face things. This is the challenge, really, and this is where a lot of, I think, of us truth seekers go wrong. Is that we've come out of the system. We've lost all of our networks, our support that are around us, the kind of normalcy of the battery farm. And now where do we go from here? And the traumas that we experience are stored in the body and mind. Most of these traumas date back to the first 7 years of your life, oftentimes the first 3 years.
You believed everything was real then.
Yeah.
As you get older, you start realising, oh, that wasn't real. You got a different perspective. But up until a certain age, everything you're told, you believe.
Yeah. Simply discovering
if your parents
that
are going, you're thick, you're useless, you're ugly, smack, smack, smack. That child's going to grow up
Yeah.
Even, you know,
Well, all
some
of us
people
are-
like negative energy. That's being thumped. To them, it's still attention. It's the wrong attention. But we don't realise. We just don't realise that, you know, you can't. It's, you know, it's a bit like you've got a cassette in there, but it's full of all this stuff you need to look at. You can't pretend it's not there. It is there until you look at it. Maybe your cassette's actually quite clean and good, but most people's isn't. And most people will say, "I had a great childhood," but when they go and look, they think, "Oh no, I didn't really."
That's right. I mean, and you know, there's subtle trauma and there's significant trauma, and just
And
discovering,
that's the
simply
sad bit, isn't it?
discovering
Because
that.
somebody else has given you their trauma.
Yeah, I mean, it may even be it's a soul contract that you came here under a certain energetic contract
I read
to
that. You choose your
experience what
parents,
you
you
experience.
choose these things, but phew.
But well, I mean, the positive element of that is that you know, it's like becoming master of the ship. Is that if you weren't thrown out at sea in a storm, then you will never learn to overcome those challenges, become master of your own ship. Now, Andrea is a body-mind coach. That's her kind of, you know, her qualification, her training is that of a body-mind coach. So her work is very much about seeking to, you know, unpick the stored trauma in the body, or rather in the mind, and then, you know, bring people back into the body, because the body is where the heart is, the mind is where, you know, the sheep is, and we need to realign, come back into that harmony. And in the truth seeker community, you know, we can see these truths because of a certain trauma, you know. So there's no doubt in my mind, having spent a lot of time around flat earthers and others, that, you know, we are no different.
Yeah,
In
because
fact,
that's because we
might even
remain open.
more traumatized than some.
We're remaining open to things. But, you know, if you're in that religion or whatever it is, or you're global, you've closed your mind off. That's what it is to you, and that's it. But we're open more.
Yeah.
We've had to
well,
relook at things and work things out for ourselves.
Mm.
Do you know what? Just on that bit you were talking about, for me, I was in my 20s when this happened, but I read this book. I've got another one. It's called Until Today. It's a great book, that one. Anyway, this other one she wrote, I think her name is Yolanda, whatever her name is. She's not English, but she basically put life like a house. She said, first of all, there's the basement, and what is it like down there? It's dark and dingy. Then you've got the first floor, the second floor, and say another floor and the attic. But if you live in the basement of life, what happens is it's dark, cold, dingy. No one can see where they're going. No one knows what's going on. No one knows how to sort anything out, and you're just bumping into each other. And then you get to the first floor. You might not have worked your problems out, but now you've recognised that you've got some, or you need to work through this or work through that. By the time you get to the attic, you're in unconditional love, and things don't mean the same when you're there. The things that bugged you in the basement don't bug you in the attic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Well,
it's a
you
bit
know,
more idealistic, because that's a book, and you're doing you know, you're talking.
Yeah, well, no, it's a good analogy. Obviously, from the body prospect, as I was saying, you know, like the attic would be the head, perhaps, and we don't want to live. Our minds are racing. Our minds are being activated, supercharged by this crazy system, and as you become, and particularly as you're a truther, you know, you are hyper alert. You are hyper suspicious. You are.
I think we're
very
worse as
much.
adults, to be honest. I think that I'm not saying every child is right, and as an adult you agree with some of the decisions, but as a child you make decisions about things, and that is it. And as an adult, like for me, you know, it's finding out what my grandfather did to me, you know, remembering it and everything. And but as an adult, I didn't cope with it very well, because I thought, how could I let that happen to me? But I was a kid when it happened. It was different. I was about 7 or 8.
Yeah.
So these are the things that your mind might do, but, you know, I've come to terms with that now.
It's called the frozen moment.
But you don't
Karen,
realise how
where-
much that moment changed my life forever, but I didn't realise it.
Yeah. No, it does, and then you start to see life from the lens of that. Just say, take the example of, say, a black child in a white school. It takes one person when that child is 7 years old to say something, something dark or something unkind, and that child will consider himself to be that, or treat white people from that lens for the rest of his life.
I think that's the sad thing as well. We've been given that segregation, oh, you don't like blacks, you don't like Chinese, whatever it is. Everybody's been given these stories, but they don't realise that it never happened. We lived in peace. It's all just there's more lies to make more conflict, to make you hate people.
Yeah. Funny enough, I spent a little bit of time with allegedly Dave Murphy at a festival just a few weeks ago, and he said that actually I taught him something over the years, because he had a particular perspective of white South Africans, and it was only in encountering me over the last 6 years or so that he had the opportunity to reframe his perspective on that. So these things, particularly in the first 7 years of your life, give me the boy till 7 and I'll give you the man. The first 7 years of your life, that we tend to put on lenses.
We don't let children be children anymore, do we? Anyway, is your little boy all right?
He's fantastic.
Yeah, he's free, isn't he? He's free at the moment.
Free, and I love that he never has to hear the bell ring. He never has to kind of get up, forced out of bed to kind of go off and do the school thing and so on. And when it comes to him self-learning and so on, he is like a sponge. And
that's what I say. Children. See what you can do to children and how you can destroy them.
Look, I think with the best will in the world, we're going to always come across problems. I mean, the other day the police, pulled me for no insurance and they took the car off me and so on. And that was it was a ripple for him. It was upsetting for him, and so he will. It does shade, or you might say a snappy word on one particular day. The best parents in the world are, or there's things that are going to shape us, and that's okay. The thing is that do we have a mechanism for coming back into balance? And most of us do not. And that's what this work that Andrea and I are
offering.
It's quite
awful that you've got to grow up, isn't it? Because we're only big children, really. But,
yes.
Big one is Father Christmas. When, all those years you thought he was real, and then someone says he isn't. And your parents have lied to you for years. But, I mean, we've all done it.
Yes.
Oh, there's my two cats. Stop it. Come on.
We did it with our older children, but we haven't done it with CZ.
He at least he gets a nice sort of journey through, so that's great.
And his health is fantastic. He's
How old is he now? He must be about 5 or 6.
Or 7.
7. Oh my God.
Yeah. My little flat Earth baby is 7 now.
How tall is he?
1 meter 30.
So how much shorter than you is he? Do you think he'll be taller than you?
He may be taller than me. I mean, my other son is a good few inches taller than me. He may be taller than me. He currently weighs in at 26.5 kilograms and he will tell you 3'11". Last time we measured his height, so he could be about 4 foot by now.
Yeah, we're looking at that picture, on your course, and he's upside down.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's funny enough. That photo is taken in Sevenoaks.
I used to live near there, Dave.
Oh, do you know Knoll House?
Well, not actually in Tunbridge Wells, but I used to live between Hailsham and Heathfield, and Heathfield's about 5-6 miles from Tunbridge Wells.
Okay, because there's this.
My mum's cousin lived there, so we used to go there quite a lot.
Okay.
Can I just
Yeah, I think it's
say,
called
on your page, where is it? I've lost it now. There, where is it? Oh, I've lost it now. You've got must be up here on the first bit. You've got your your email address for this course.
LoveTruthSovereignty.com.
Yeah, lovetruthsovereignty@gmail.com.
Gmail.
Yeah.
Sorry, at gmail.com, yeah.
Because I'm just going through your page, which is very well done.
It's, yeah, and it is well done. As I said, Andrea sort of mainly put that together, but there's links there for getting in touch and for booking into the course, and I think some info on what you can expect on the 4 days, and yeah, I mean, I went and studied. I did a course, called Journey Code, like life coaching. But Andrea has done some deeper stuff in the body-mind coaching, and so between the two of us, I think we offer quite a well-rounded package. I obviously have a good understanding of the deceptions out there, but we both are keen to help people work on themselves, because it is really yourself that needs to be
You can't, and also,
harmonized.
Jane, you can't help anybody else until you've sorted yourself out.
Yep, only give from the overflow. You've got to fill your own cup. That's so important. We fill our own cup, and then because this is why people are messed up, because their parents were not coming from a full cup position. No foul, no blame. But the fact is that we've all been, we were brought up by parents of the war, or who were sort of all traumatized by World War II, and their parents were traumatized by things of the post-20s, or what was certainly World War I and everything. So we are dogs in a cage, or chickens on a battery farm, and we're coming out of that.
Also, do you think some of it as well is that while they're playing all these mind games and training you how they want to, they've forgotten that actually some people are very intelligent. And what it was is, I did this video, and just very quickly, it was this guy, I think he was a kind of doctor, and he was talking about, the thing is, in his book, he didn't say everybody was like it, but I changed it in my video, and I said we're all like it. Something happens, whether it's at conception, whether it's when you're being born, and I think that what happens is you either follow more the autistic avenue or the Asperger's avenue, but they're trying to get rid of Asperger's right now. And it doesn't mean you've got it exactly. You might have just traits. I think the least it is that you have a few traits of either one, and the worst it is, what happens when those people are so highly affected. They're so sensitive. They can't cope with anything. So what it was is, he said, this is the last bit. What he said was, you look at people's faces. So I think if it goes to the left, your Asperger's, your smile, part of your smile, it will always go left or right. And then in his video, he was showing you actors and that had smiles going this way and that way. And the thing is, he's saying it's only some people, but I don't. I think it's all of us. We either follow a slightly autistic, which would cover empaths and everything, or Asperger's are more mathematical. Right. I think we follow we all have at least traits. And they haven't even told us that. You can be very sensitive if you're on the autistic range. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I understood, because our oldest son was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, whatever.
He's just a very clever person.
Yeah, he's got certain talents that are his area of genius. But in trying to research this over the years, it kind of was suggested that we're all on a spectrum of autism. Some are at the very low end of it, and some are at the high.
Yeah,
and they can.
I believe that, and it's in your smile. It's almost as if, because your face isn't identical, one side's soft, one side's hard, they're not identical, but it's almost as if you've had a stroke, and then it just alters that face a tiny bit, makes it a little bit not now the same, or the opposite or something. Whether that happens at conception, whether that happens at birth, whether that is the way that we are actually, I don't know. But I think it happens, and we're on either Aspergery or autistic-y. All of us. But that doesn't mean you just have traits, at the least. Just traits.
Yeah.
You know, empaths are on the autistic range.
Right. Well, I think, you know, I'd like to think, I prefer to think that you know, we all have genius, we all have areas of strength. That is our own natural place. But if you've disturbed me, I mean, and you've seen the memes yourself, you know, you got this beautiful individual, unique soul, and then you shove them into a state indoctrination camp for 12 or 15 years or whatever. What comes out of the other side is not necessarily the natural being that went in. So we're all, you know, many of us are sort of have our natural God gift, you know, natural.
You know, one way they did it, right? They did it to me in the 60s. They brought in ITA, which was different phonics. Thousands of children were piloted on that system, and it was trying to take out joined up writing and using the backs of some letters to make other letters. So it's like being taught a totally different language, and then just sticking them back into the education, and then calling them thick, or they have got autism, or they've now got problems. When actually it was the government piloting a system, and they're not. My senior school never even knew about it. My mum isn't really aware that would have considerably messed me up. I know people who went through it like I did.
Yeah.
And basically, it artificially makes you dyslexic. Artificially.
Yes.
At the end of it, you're what did I say? What did I say we were just then? Pardon?
Autistic or empathic or...
No. You know when you can't spell words, you can't...
dyslexic.
That's it, sorry. Oh, God. I made artificially dyslexic, but that's what it did.
Yes.
You have writing without joined up letters on it, you know, so a T can be an I.
Yeah. The pressure of forcing children at a particular age to learn a certain level of kind of writing and so on is so wrong, because, you know, it takes, you know, the range of years that it would take some children to be able to write and other children to be able to write could be 5 years, you know. Some are good at 7 and some...
learning more like Steiner did it.
Yeah, he was pretty interesting. What he wrote about is pretty interesting. He also went on to talk about how they're going to use the vax to damage people.
When I looked into it years ago, the children listened to those teachers, and those teachers mostly had come out of state education. They couldn't believe that the children just listened to them. And I like the fact that instead of plastering that child with everything all in one go and supposed to know it all at 5 or 4, you were introduced to things. But now Steiner schools are private, so it's taken away the very thing it was set up to do. Private.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, my little Zizi, he, you know, if you put him in a classroom and said, right, for the next half hour or 45 minutes, you got to sit here and write numbers on a piece of paper, he would probably kick off. But if I give him a big chalk, you know, the chalk that I use for writing on the road, he goes through as much of it as I do, because wherever the house, you know, most houses, oftentimes we stay in houses that have got like a patio with slabs on the outside, and he'll just go and write.
Artificially dyslexic. What it meant was I couldn't write, so I can't explain myself because I can't spell things. And it took away that. Like, I didn't realise for years I wrote does as dose, but I was writing does, but it was actually dose. And one day I realised that that's what I was doing. It wasn't because I couldn't spell. Well, I couldn't spell because I was dyslexic, but I actually thought it was, and I realised I'd spelt it wrong, but it took me years. Because when you're dyslexic, you can't formulate words properly.
But you know what? I mean, something that we don't really account for.
They
is
made
that
all these
all
thousands and thousands and thousands of children dyslexic on purpose, and then probably said, well, they were very thick in those years in the 60s.
Yeah, but Karen, we were all vaccinated in that time.
Yeah, when we were kids, I was always getting them. You know,
so we don't know.
polio. I never got the one at school. I never had that one. My mum didn't want me to have that one. and now I don't really go for any.
Yeah, so I do wonder whether some of our intellect isn't interfered with by some of these things. You know, but
yeah, because we're
but
an
here's the thing,
experiment. They're experiments. You know, like when they tell us about Auschwitz and all that, and how they did all those. They're doing the same to us today.
Yeah.
It's quite.
Yeah, the
I call it
same
treason
things they learn.
myself. Treason.
Yeah. But if we lived in nature, then and you know your zone of excellence was growing and harvesting some kind of fruit or food or whatever, then that dyslexia would never even have appeared to you. And you know, if it was that you had to write certain stuff down about your apples that you were growing, or about the numbers of apples that the weight of the apples that you harvested or whatever, or the recipe for making a jam, all of these things they would be so easy for you to take on board. But when you're crammed into a school with now you have to learn 500 words in this year, and
then you've got to take some home and do homework as well.
It's not natural. So, you know, the whole environment is not actually a natural environment. And so it creates this kind of like hierarchy, you know. And if your IQ, and, you know, obviously the IQ is in itself divisive, the IQ test. But, you know, if your IQ is high, then, you know, it's like you're going to be a good corporate slave. And if it's low, you're not. But in fact, if you had to put those two people, one with a high and one with a low, into nature, well, there would be a great equalizer. In fact, you might find that the person with the so-called lower IQ was a phenomenal farmer, and the other one was like, oh, I can't get my plants to grow, you know, with a high IQ. So you know, we've been put into a false setting, on non-natural setting, and then made to kind of feel superior or inferior based on that unnatural setting. You know, a lion kept in a zoo.
Do you know what it is?
Nowhere near
they say when you're
the
born, I'm not okay, but you're okay. So baby feels okay then. And then it kind of turns into, well, I'm not okay, and you're not okay. And then it turns into, I'm okay, but you're not okay. And then it should be, I'm okay, you're okay.
Yeah.
That's how damaged we are. When you've got those first three, you won't believe a counsellor, you won't trust this, you like being punched, you know, because you don't realise what your life has done to you. Yeah. Some people never wake up, never question nothing.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know what that means for the soul. You know, I think, as I said, from the DMT experience, I know that we're eternal beings. So I don't know whether there is a reincarnation and a coming back and burning it again, or whether it matters. But I do truly believe that those people that have got the gift of sight, that have been able to see these things, should be encouraged to take the steps to come back to, you know, home, to who they truly are. And that is what this course that Andrea and I are offering is about, is starting that journey back home, setting aside all the crap. You should call it
Stop Running.
And stop running, and you know, and find yourself, and in that find the harmony and the peacefulness with which to experience this Disneyland place, because we need to be in the world but not necessarily of the world, and that's how we should conduct ourselves.
Very nicely said, Dave.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, I think that's our soul mission, is to come back to love, come back to
and even, you know, talk about it more.
Balance.
We don't talk about it enough, do we?
We don't, and in fact, in the truther community, we're so falling over each other to try and discover the next, you know, unknown kind of lie or deception, or the truth about how the shape of the earth and what the continents might really look like, etc., or what Trump's going to do next. And so it's about kind of stepping out of the ring.
Is it a bit like you're still going to Speaker's Corner, you still will go on about it, but life has to move on as well, because It just has. We know what it is. You're not going to change your mind about it, but there's other things that maybe you can change people's minds on as well.
Well, when encountering the world, it's like, where are you coming from? And I know that my journey of going into Speaker's Corner is that I feel like I'm coming from, and it's it's an ongoing process. I'm not saying I'm the complete and finished article, but where are you coming from, and where am I coming from when I
We're in a
address
society
people
that doesn't think, and it's good to make people think.
Mm. It is, and we're meant to be watchers on the wall. We're meant to be saying, hey, there's something wrong here. But the problem is that if we haven't sorted ourselves out, then we are not coming at it from the balanced place. That phrase, as within, so without. If within is in turmoil, then without is always going to be in turmoil. But if within is in balance, then you're going to find balance in your world.
I've got a good one for you, Dave. Do you live outside in or inside out?
Do I what?
In your life, do you live outside in or inside out?
Well, the latter is the ideal. I mean,
inside out. That is correct.
Yeah, that's the way that, because coming back to the little boy who was the little black child who was abused by a white boy when he was young or whatever, then he's seeing like the world from that place, and I think
you probably can have both of them, because the outside in is the holiday, the car, whatever it is, buying the shoes, but the inside out is how you should live your life. You're inside out. You're not outside in, are you?
No, but this world wants to get us more interested in the shoes and the car and the job title than what's inside. And so, yes, have the nice car and so on, but where are you coming from? Are you coming from it as I'm just trying to be like this, beat the Joneses kind of perspective, or is this something that I've built from within, rather than my whole focus is on the outside, the exterior?
It's better to be true to yourself than lying, isn't it, all the time with a band-aid trying to cover everything up. You can keep running, but you can't really run away from yourself. You'll just be. I don't know maybe what it is I haven't dealt with, but that's the grey bit. It's like you're slightly numb. That will happen. Everything will be numbed, and it's better to be alive, isn't it? While we're here.
Yeah. Yeah, so we don't live in a material world. Madonna lied. The Kardashians are designed to kind of keep people out, type of thing.
In a life that you could never afford.
Well, yeah, and maybe the realization that riches come from within. So the happiest people, genuinely, truly the happiest people that I've met, have often been like in Africa, where people have got almost nothing, and yet they have such a happy countenance, and you would think that these people who are
the people who haven't got anything are the happiest.
Oftentimes, I mean, it's not a golden rule, but it's oftentimes that is that the simpler the life, the more at peace people are. The more complex you are, the more loans you have, the more you're worried about. I mean, the flash car, you're worried about someone scratching it or stealing it or whatever. It's so we're kind of putting our wellness in stuff that's external to us, when our wellness should come from within, and then the outside will, to a large extent, sort itself out, and we will be less concerned by the car that we drive. In fact, I honestly, I used to be like, I want to drive a nice car and what have you. And then when we came back from South Africa, broke and, a penny to our names, a friend, Flat Earther, Simon, he offered me a car. He said, look, this old lady down the road, she's selling her car. It's 20 years old. It's knackered. But I'll give it to you. I'll buy it from her, and I'll give it to you. And I was like, that's awesome. And now I was driving around until it couldn't pass the MOT and it had to be scrapped. I was driving around in a car that was a wreck. I didn't care. I didn't care pulling up next to a Porsche or whatever. It didn't bother me at all. Because
so other things were more important, Dave. Other things were more important.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not because I'm not valuing myself on that less so valuing myself on that external thing of what's the brand of the clothing that I'm wearing, or this or that, or the car or whatever. Now, obviously, you're driving around with your family. You want to be in a safe car. You want you want not to break down on the roadside and these sorts of things. So it's not to say that because we've taken this path, we want to just, live like paupers and wear rags and so on. You still want to take care of yourself and appear like, if I'm talking in the speaker's corner, I don't want to turn up like a scruff and people look at you and go, well, you're a scruff, So you do want to take care of yourself and those things around you, make sure your car is safe to drive and, serviced and that sort of thing. But it's not, it's coming from within rather than my image. I'm going to take a loan so I can buy a car.
That's what I said to you. When you wake up and you know yourself more, your ego doesn't mean the same. I mean, you need one, but it's how you use it. And you don't need to be better than anyone else.
It's taming the ego. The ego is the goat, maybe, and it's taming that. It's like, having it under control in a way, because goats are rambunctious creatures, and they'll run all over the place if you allow them to. So it is about having that ego, but in its rightful place. And so if your ego is in a mess within, then it's going to express itself without. And that's where we really need to move ourselves. And I think why. I don't want to connect ego to what I'm about to say, but why I think so many truthers that I've come across in the last 7-8 years have passed away, because the challenge of going from the prison to freedom is so great and so painful and so at times lonely that I think that it causes this break in the self and a leaving of this Disneyland and going back home to the from whence we come.
I heard a book, Dave. It said, if you're still here, your mission on Earth isn't over.
That's quite right. And your mission is you. You are the mission. You and you're balancing, like you were damaged on the way.
Like, say you've got a messed up childhood, messed up life, and then you watch the messed up television. Everything just is always messed up.
That's right.
And it's hard to know where to begin when you're first looking, because there's so much of everything. You realise so much so quickly, and then you've got to digest it. But this is what your talks are about. This is what your talks are going to be about.
Yes, it can be overwhelming, and that's why, I mean, having been, I'm almost 10 years, maybe a little bit more than 10 years since I sort of joined the truth community, as it were.
You know something, Dave? When you go to Speaker's Corner, I'm going to put a little bit of your video in this video, but you're like a warrior. Not in an aggressive way, but you're still a warrior. Like, I admire that you do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Karen.
I mean, I do a little bit myself, but I do it one-to-one. Like, say an insurance company rings up and they think I'm going to buy something, I tell them about Flatty. I tell them about Flatty. But you go out there and people can be quite nasty.
That's right.
You've got a shield, Dave. You've got a shield. They can't harm you.
Yes. Now, if you want to include a little clip of something powerful, Harry John Smith Globe Lie had made a video years ago of me in Speaker's Corner. It's one of the top, if you look at my videos by most viewed, it's probably the third or fourth video into the most viewed. It's had 5,000-6,000 views. And it's called Disneyland, or Activism on Fire. And if you want a clip of really powerful stuff, then that was 2018. And it was, filmed by someone else, because normally I'm having to hold the camera myself, and it's kind of hard to do all of that at the same time.
Isn't it, when you realise that you're lied to so much? It's hard to trust the place you live in as well. So you've got to be about 3 people in one, because you don't believe what's happening. You're trying to tell the truth. You don't trust where you are.
I'm glad you bring that up, because trust is one of the things that us truthers really struggle with, trusting each other, because we've been abused, and we know it. We know that our partner has been lying to us about everything, and so we've had our trust fingers burned. And so coming back into a place of love and harmony and balance from a place of I've been abused is really difficult. And so this is why sometimes it helps to have a group.
Damn.